All right.
Yes, yes.
I'll call the meeting to order again. Thanks, Lou. Okay, so welcome back from our break. So we're now on to item 5, New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame project, and Gary, and welcome Alan. Alan Livingston is here, and to just any questions that we have that staff can't cover. Alan, trustee Alan now, or yeah, on the Sports Hall of Fame. So we'll be able to answer any questions on that issue. Over to you.
Thank you, Richard. So councillors will recall that during the annual plan process, you received a submission from the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame for a grant of $750,000. Given the other pressures on the council budget, especially around issues like the desirability of funding new library, by way of example, the council wanted to take stock and look at all of those other issues before it made any grant. However, the Trust, in its efforts to win this facility for Cambridge, requires some sort of tangible commitment from the council so that it's able to advance with its funding applications with other philanthropic trusts. And Alan Livingston will be able to fill you in some more on that. So the opportunity that exists within council's policies is to offer a loan guarantee, so long as you are confident that the trust has the ability to meet the costs of that loan in the way in which it's structured its finances. So Yolanda's prepared a report. Yolanda, you might have some more comments to make, but
has he stolen your thunder, Yolanda? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Richard, I just really wanted to recap on the annual plan process. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Yolanda, did you have anything you wanted to highlight?
Thank you, Richard. I've got nothing else to add, so I'll take the report as read and we can open for questions there.
Thanks, Yolanda. So as I see it, the approval of this loan guarantee fits within our policy pretty much, except for the ownership of the land, and that's the only issue that's outside of the policy documents that we've got. Yeah. Okay, Roger, and then Liz.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And first of all, I'm really pleased on Gary's determination that there's no conflict of interest for myself and Mike in this issue. I also see it as something different, but I see it as now I have the opportunity of endorsing the support of the Sports Hall of Fame. I'm really committed to heritage in our district of all forms. And I think when I look at Cambridge, we currently have a wonderful museum there. We have a wonderful car museum out at Howtap, which adds another dimension. We have a new equine museum that has become established. And I think that this Sports Hall of Fame adds another dimension to that whole heritage collection that's becoming part of Cambridge. I think the issue of land ownership, I feel quite confident that that will be covered in the agreement. And so I see that the risk to council in supporting of this will be an acceptable level of risk. So I 100% support this initiative. I think when I heard that there was a chance that the support was in question when we first talked about it, I was really concerned that perhaps we would miss this opportunity, because this opportunity will not be there forever. So I think we've got to take it while it is there and do everything we can to bring that facility into the Waipa district. So I think it's well worth our consideration of this underwriting of the loan. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Lou? And, oh, sorry, Liz, there, Lou, and then Liz. Sorry, Liz.
I'm very, very supportive of this whole issue, but I just want to raise one minor point. Traditionally, when you have a guarantee on a loan, you usually have a loan operative to guarantee against. Normally in business, when you have a loan guarantee, you actually have something that is there that you're actually guaranteeing. This is a bit more nebulous, but where we are doing this and then they'll go out and raise the funds. So I just wanted to raise that question because I am in support of it, don't get me wrong. But I just think that we need to cross our T's and dot our I's.
Ken, did you just want to comment on that?
Yeah, so Your Worship, I mean, really good question, Councillor Brown. So yeah, so look, I guess this is quite unusual in that yeah, you're actually potentially resolving to guarantee a loan that may never ever happen, because yeah, and look, yeah, certainly Alan Livingston could speak to this to a certain extent. I understand that the fundraising efforts are going pretty well. So yeah, so in our last discussion with Graham Moore, yeah, you know, this was really important that they actually had the security of a loan guarantee and the option of actually going and arranging some finance with the bank. But it was certainly yeah, certainly Graham and the other trustees great hope that that actually that would never ever eventuate. So yeah, so a very important thing to point out that yeah, you're actually yeah, looking to put in place a guarantee option, but yeah, you've got a trust who is sincerely hoping that they don't actually need to go down that path, that as time eventuates, yeah, that they will have the finance through other means.
Thank you, Ken, for that confirmation.
Thanks, Lou. I'll leave questions for, well, any comments that Alan's got to the end, if you like, and then I'll get Alan to come up to the table so that we can get him on the microphone. Sorry, Marcus, I've got Liz, and then I see Susan's got a hand up, although it looks like a sunshine in your top left-hand corner, and then Marcus. Yep.
Yeah, look, I guess just following on from Ken, these are my comments that, you know, this paper we've got in front of us is to look at a guarantor of a loan, which I'm very supportive of. At this point in time, the council has not, you know, supported the entire project because we haven't done our consultation yet with the community. So I don't think that discussion should be held today. I think that we need to consult with our community before, you know, we show a predetermination, and I'm really conscious of that. What I can say is any opportunity I've had so far around talking with the community is there is a really good level of support, which is why I'm really, really happy to support this guarantor of this loan at this point in time, but really look forward to lots of ongoing discussion with our community and obviously with the trustees. But I want to also congratulate the trustees because, you know, we've got, I think, an exceptional group of people who've seen an incredible opportunity for Waipa, and you know, it's a kind of awkward moment right now, I suppose, being in between. But yeah, really hope that this project goes really well, and very happy to move the motion for the item in front of us.
Thanks, Liz. I'll take your moving, or look for a second in a minute, but I've got Susan and then Marcus. Susan.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I just want to echo Liz's sentiments in terms of just being clear that this is a guarantee or proposal to guarantee a loan, and that we really need to get our community's feedback in a more substantive sense. And I anticipate that will take place through the annual plan process next year. Just a couple of points. I would wonder if we could add potentially to the recommendations a requirement that the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame project group report back to us on a regular sort of a basis, so that we can understand where they're at. That's sort of missing from those recommendations. That was one thing I wanted to raise. And the other thing is on page 5 of the report, page 428 of our agenda, it notes that obviously they intend to seek funding through the annual plan process next year. I'd be curious to understand what their plan B is in the event that that they're not successful through that process, if that was something that they'd contemplated at this point. So I'm not sure if Alan will be able to answer that for us. But look, on the basis that our financial team are confident that the data stacks up around the financials and that that they have a level of comfort there, I'm really excited to support the guarantee, subject to just getting a couple of clarifications on the issues I've raised.
Thanks, Susan. Well, I'll add that to the list for Alan to speak to it at the end when the councillors have asked the questions. Marcus.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to support this now with it being a loan. And I feel that with the people behind it and Alan Livingston's skills to get things done, I think it's going to be quite a successful project, and I've got no trouble backing that. So I'd be happy to second the motion or whatever changes.
Okay, thank you for that. And Andrew.
Yeah, I just a couple of questions for Ken and Yolanda. So part of the resolution says that the Hall of Fame, subject to the Hall of Fame granting council a registered security interest over all its present and after acquired property except the Hall of Fame memorabilia. Do we have any idea what the likely value of that would be? Sorry, Councillor, just to clarify the question, the likely value of everything other than the memorabilia, or the likely value of the memorabilia? Yeah, well, memorabilia, we will not have any security over. So, correct. Yes. So what's the value of whatever it is that we would have security over? Yeah, so look, we did have a capital budget, I think, was it about 1.2, 1.3 million? Yeah, actually, Yolanda, could you just speak to that?
Yeah, so as part of their fundraising requirements, they are looking at capital of about 3.2 million in total. So yeah, so that would be the value of the fit outs.
Okay, so that's probably basically going to be the building that would take place if this all goes with yeah, it won't be the actual physical bricks and mortar because because it will be owned by the Home of Cycling Trust, I believe. But it will be the fit out in terms of being able to display the memorabilia. Okay, yeah, okay, all right. And I guess my only other question is, you know, there's a projection there. Maybe Alan's will have a comment on this rather than you two, just you know how realistic that is. And yeah. So look, that was a big focus of staff as we engaged with Graham Moore over the past few weeks. But yes, you're quite right. It's it's certainly a question better directed at Alan. Yeah, thanks for that, Ken. Look, and you having stated that was a big focus for staff is very well, not unexpected, but a comfort to me because, like I think everyone else around here, I'm very would very much like to see this happen. So yeah, thanks for that.
All right, Graham.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that the timing of this is magnificent with the Te Awa Walkway expecting about 300,000 people using it a year, and they'll all be coming around the Avararima to unload their bikes and go on that trip. It's going to have a hell of a lot of foot traffic, I would imagine. Now, Cambridge has a lot of activities that are outdoor activities. If visitors come to town and it's a wet day and you can't do much, this is ideal for people to go and look at. So I think it's a win-win for Waipo all the way around and very, very supportive. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Liz, sorry.
Yeah, just quickly, just on the appendix, the financial projections, where it says Waipa DC, if this document's circulating around, I just wondered if it should be more of a clarification that that's a loan, not a fund, not a. Yeah, you know what I mean?
To make it clear. Okay, Alan, did you just want to come up to the seat here so people can hear you in Zoom land? And hopefully be able to respond to those couple of questions that came in. Firstly, in terms of reporting back, I wouldn't imagine there's any problem. And the suggestion is maybe that is sub-bullet point under B, make it bullet point 8, that we receive a regular feedback on progress, something along those lines. Gary's working out the words for us.
So Your Worship, just picking up on Councillor Susan's comments, subject to a 3-monthly report back to the council on the financial position of the trust.
Is that okay, Susan? Yep. Okay, Alan, that's not a problem for you guys, I wouldn't imagine.
Thanks, Your Worship, and it's a pleasure to be around this table in slightly different circumstances, but we'd certainly welcome that to ensure that we kept the council informed. So agree totally with Councillor Regan's suggestion.
Okay, and did you want to make any other comments at all?
I'm just trying to think.
The progress that's being made.
Very good progress, and I guess integral to that is having the support of council, because not surprisingly, the likes of Sport New Zealand looks very much to local government for their endorsement, and to have that, and we've already indicated to them that we have applied for this, and I guess from Sport New Zealand's perspective, who will be providing or contributing to annual operating costs, they see that very much as a tick, and they're considering that about now, by the end of the month, providing their support. So as has been mentioned, the hope is that we certainly won't require the loan, and with the projected building timeline, that will be the case. But it's really to have that endorsement when we go to Sport New Zealand, to central government, i.e. lotteries, and then to the likes of Grassroots and others that we are in discussions with at the present time, to some local businesses such as APL, to know that the council is very much supportive of this is a great endorsement for us to have, and they see this very much as a complementary proposal. So that's the purpose of this, and your support would be greatly appreciated. As staff have mentioned, the hope is that that loan won't be required because of the timeline that we're looking at anyway.
Okay, if there's no further discussion or comments, Susan.
Sorry. Hi, Alan. Hey, just the question I had around, was there a plan B in the event that funding wasn't made available under the annual plan next year?
At this stage, there's certainly no plan B. We're just sticking with plan A. I'd hope that if there is, in our discussions with the general public, and we're undertaking that at the present time, obviously keeping council informed. A new council, we have to be realistic within that time, that there may be some reticence about providing a grant. Obviously, then we'll look at plan B, but at this stage, we've got no intention of changing from our plan A.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Okay, so look, I've got a mover and seconder with Liz and Marcus. From my perspective, I suppose, in looking at it from a fundraiser from a little while ago, it's a real challenge when you're looking for funding from multiple sources, and it becomes a bit of a Mexican standoff where somebody's not prepared to commit until somebody else does. And Alan, all the best with your fundraising efforts, and I think I'm not telling you how to suck eggs, but plan B is to move ahead with confidence and make sure you push every button you can in terms of getting funding from the and get community support. But I think personally it's a great project for Cambridge, and has been touched on around the table. So thank you very much for your efforts that you're putting in, and it'll be another coup for Cambridge and the Waipa district in particular. So thank you for that. So we've got a mover and seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. So we now have a full council predetermined.
Thank you very much, Your Worship and councillors. And could I say, just in response to Mayor Jim's comments, the Homocycling Trust has applied for a consent for the building, and the project committee has informed the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame that we are going ahead with the project. So yes, we've made that step. As you rightly say, at some point you've got to say go and then get everything lined up. But from our perspective, and I guess it's, to me, it's, sorry to take up time, but it's been highlighted just with this recent wet weather, and we've had friends come to stay with us and we say, well, what are we going to do on this wet day? And other than going to the Regent Movie Theatre, there's really not much, there's nothing we can do. In the summer, we might be able to go to Karapera or Maungatautari, but at the present time, we've got nothing. So if we can say to friends, businesses, families, let's go to the Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Cambridge, I think that's a real plus for the greater Waikato, not just Cambridge Waipa. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Alan. And thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in. Great. Okay. Item 13, consideration of support for sale of alcohol proposal. Lee probably should. Lou's declared an interest.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think probably Lou. I think it's pretty close with both organisations. Yeah. Okay, Gary.
Thank you, Worship. So the council's recently received an approach from the Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Richard Hoskins, and the Chief Executive of the Waikato District Health Board, Dr. Kevin Sneed, to support Chloe Swarbrick's private members bill, which is, as I understand it, in a pool of bills that potentially be drawn. And so critically, the impacts for Waipa are around process, especially when we come to review our local alcohol policy and then subject to appeals. And then the other issue is more of a conscience issue, and that's about the extent to which alcohol providers are used to subsidise sports. So staff have chosen not to make a recommendation in respect of that, leaving it more to the individual councillors to give us a lead on that. But Carl, I wonder if I could pass to you, perhaps highlight the important points in your report and then throw it open to questions, Your Worship.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Yes, so that's a very good summary. Thanks, Gary. We've followed a process in the drafting of this report very similar to what Hamilton City followed, in the sense we've left the recommendations very open and just opted to provide you with some of the supporting and background information as to where the bills come from and what the basis is for it. So as Gary's mentioned, we've sort of stayed out of the supporting discussion. It's not our area of expertise, but certainly when it comes to the challenges around the local alcohol policy, that is definitely something that staff and Waipa have experienced. And as you may be aware, a number of councils for that reason have not progressed to the stage of having even draft local alcohol policies. It just creates creates the potential for a very circular process where appeals go backwards and forwards between the council and the authority. And it's one of those processes where only those with the resources are likely to pursue it. Waipa was very fortunate when we drafted our LAP that we identified that early, and we invested quite significantly in mediating a lot of issues prior to filing our LAP. But there's certainly nothing to say that when the LAP comes up for review later this year or early next year, that we will not enter into that cycle of having a document that is continually appealed. So it's really takes away the local benefit of what is meant to be a local policy, and allows other people to dictate where that goes. So certainly from a staff perspective, we quite strongly feel that any opportunity to close the door on that process would be of benefit to Waipa in terms of not only time and money, but ensuring that our local people have as much control over that process as possible. And in terms of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act itself, as we comment there, the Act's 10 years old. It's had a few changes here and there. The largest one being to insert special provisions around the Rugby World Cup, which was since repealed, but largely has stayed the same. It's certainly has areas where it can be improved on a procedural basis, but the big question for most players in the space is it meeting its objective? Is it really reducing alcohol-related harm? And that's probably where the main focus of the review needs to be. So certainly staff support flagging that is an opportunity that government should take. So I'll probably just leave my summary at this stage, and happy to answer any questions or assist with any discussion.
Thanks, Carl. Questions or comments, Claire?
Thanks, Carl. I was wondering if you could just help us out with the impact that removing the appeal process for community people that were wanting to appeal it, like, because that's highlighted in the staff report that, obviously retailers and suppliers of alcohol wouldn't be able to make appeals, but also, members of the community or community groups couldn't either. Yeah. Have you got any concerns around that?
It's a concern that if you take the appeal process away altogether, that would affect all parties equally. I guess that would put the onus on council ensuring that the special consultative procedure that we use when we develop the policy in the first place is as robust as it can be and takes all those matters into account. The challenge is, of course, the private members bill at the moment is just a draft, and it itself will go through quite considerable change, most likely before it's adopted. So that may or may not be addressed. But I think, it simply puts the onus back on us to make sure that our process covers those views as best it can.
Following up.
Yeah,
the other proposal that's in Chloe Swarbrick's bill is removal of, sponsorship by alcohol. Do you have any idea what quantum of sponsorship is being, I suppose, is supporting sport in our community? Have you got any figures on that or anything? Like, I'm thinking about what impact it might have.
No, through the chair, no, unfortunately not. That's not a space that council has had any involvement in, and other than the research that was provided with the report, we haven't seen anything recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I'd be wanting to explore further if we got involved with this more, because obviously I understand that clubs, rely quite a lot on the revenue earned through alcohol, and while it may be harmful, I think that a step would be needed to work with those organisations to find alternatives, so that we're not putting their operation at risk just simply by having, suddenly it's going to be removed. Yeah, so I'd like to see more work done on that.
Gary, did you want to, or Carl, did you want to comment on that? Just quickly, while you're thinking about the response, I just think that that's probably outside of our area of responsibility, Claire, to be fair. And look, I appreciate your comments, and I know sports clubs around the country are really struggling at the moment, and a lot of it's COVID related, but we really got to balance up the public health concerns about alcohol and its provision, I suppose, and it's a central government, I suppose, responsibility in some ways, but our local policies get consulted on, but in terms of knowing how much in a quantitative sense is given to clubs, I don't think we could actually gather that information. So I think it's probably unfair to put that as a requirement on this discussion. I think it's certainly of interest, but I don't know that it's something that we could actually gather that level of information. Carl, did you want to comment?
No, Your Worship, I'd agree. I certainly don't even know where to start to find the answer to that, I guess, is the short comment.
That, and I do recall that when the smoke-free legislation came in, that central government actually provided a lot of funding as a bridge, you know, to help cope with that big change as well.
Yeah.
You know, I do acknowledge the harm that's done by alcohol through associating, you know, young people in sport and things like that. And I can understand where Chloe is coming from with that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Roger.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jim. Thanks, Carl. The 2 points. I have a concern about removing the right of our community to have an effective voice on the environment in which they live. And I think that we're supposed to enable and reflect that. And I'd suggest that, you know, if there was an appeal that was brought forward in relation to the licensing regulation for Waipa, that the voice of reason would outweigh the voice of those that were possibly against. So I would still like to retain the opportunity for the local community to have input. On the other, and the impact of advertising on sport, I come from a family that's got a real history in sport. I've got children who are New Zealand representatives. I've got grandkids who were New Zealand representatives. I know that there is a culture amongst youth of alcohol abuse that's out there. But in fact, I don't see that the fact that there is an alcohol billboard around the side of the ground has affected any of my kids in either playing the sport or consuming the alcohol. I think the alcohol is a social phenomenon, and I'm unsure on whether or how much that billboarding or that support is affected. And yet, the money that they pour into the support of all sports enables more people to participate more readily in really what is a welcome activity throughout all ages. So I would not like to see that inhibited in any way that restricts availability of sport to all ages.
I had Andrew and then Mike, and I think, Roger, you've probably hit the conundrum right on the head as to which way people are wanting to go, and the reason why the staff have left it open to us to make a call. Andrew, and then Mike.
Thanks, Jim. So look, my first question's regarding these appeals. Can you describe to me the nature of the bulk of the appeals that come through, you know, that we're talking about?
Yes, only through Chair. So Waipa's experience was we went through the special consultative process and we ended up with a final local alcohol policy. And the parties that were looking to appeal at that stage were effectively national supermarkets or bottle stores linked to national chains, in my recollection. And effectively, any part of the LAP could be appealed on the basis that it was thought to be unreasonable. And then that then goes, so you've gone through your whole special consultative procedure, it then goes to the licensing authority in Wellington. They then consider whether there's merit to that objection or not. If they believe it is, they pass the policy back to council to reconsider. You make your amendments, and then it goes back to them, and the parties have the right to.
So thanks, Carl. That was kind of my assumption. And it was in relation to things like restricting hours of sale and stuff like that.
Yeah, largely related to all floss.
Yeah. So look, on that basis, I'm very happy to support abolishing the appeals, you know, as described under the, you know, in the report here. As to the second thing, yeah, this is a repeat of the smoking debate in advertising, and it's not a it's going to be, it's very contentious, I would suggest. And look, you know, as someone who has been known to have the odd drink, perhaps I'm a little bit hypocritical in a way, but I personally agree that look, these people don't put the placards and things up because it doesn't work. It does help sell alcohol and sell it to people who struggle to cope with the impacts of it. So I would certainly listen to the debate with interest, but my inclination is to support the whole thing. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you through Jim. I totally agree with Andrew actually. Pretty much what I was going to bring up is that alcohol companies don't sponsor anything unless there's money in it, because they're a business, and businesses are there to make a revenue for themselves and for their shareholders. So the other thing is, I mean, many of us would have seen that Patrick Gower thing a couple of weeks ago. It was a bit of an eye-opener, I think, for the country. And I'm sure a lot of us have just talked to lots of people about that documentary, whether it was the first night or was the second night of it. And there's not one person I've come across that is actually wanting the government to take a lead on this, which is really funny, because you know, I mix with rugby guys too who drink and all the rest of it. But yeah, I've hand on heart, not one person I've talked to of all sorts of ages has said that we shouldn't be looking at this as a nation. The other thing is really alcohol advertising and the exposure to it is largely focused on one gender, and that is the male gender. So if you look at the Silver Ferns, they're sponsored, I think, by New World. The All Blacks are sponsored by, well, it's a Steinlager. So there's some fundamental things here of how come women's sport can actually find other ways of getting sponsorship and getting traction. And predominantly, particularly, you know, some sports, if I take rugby, is heavily focused on alcohol advertising to survive. So back to that smoking debate, those smoking companies used to sponsor all sorts of, you know, the tennis Winfield Cup, you know, it's all gone. They've found alternatives. So I just see this as evolution. I totally support this. And the evolution will be others will step in because there's a market.
Thanks, Mike. Liz and then Graham, I think. Oh, yep, and Susan.
Hand. Look, I guess I just reiterate what I call the really good judgment, you know, Andrew and Mike. I absolutely agree with supporting this. When I look at our role in the community, it's always to look at the whole community and what's in the best interests of all of the community members we have. And I see this as really aligning with that. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Liz. Graham and then Susan.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm really struggling with this because those of you who saw some of the weekend papers, there was an in-depth article in there on the effect of people in the Auckland region with fast foods. They are spending $1 billion on fast foods and it's having an enormous effect on their health. Now, it appears that the alcohol is taking a whacking in this, but if you looked at the Tongan league game the other day, the whole thing was dripping with KFC boards. Are we going to ban takeaways or something like that? It's all pretty one-sided. We've all had a go at our grog in our younger days, and then you get a bit of sense, and yeah, you just take it easy. But yeah, I'm really struggling with this, especially the winding down of the sponsorship. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Susan.
Thanks, Jim. Look, I was originally quite conflicted on this issue because I'm not big on interventions in a big way. However, I think listening to both Andrew and Mike very succinctly put their views made me realise I think I err on that side of this debate too. Last year, before Patrick Gower's documentary, Guy and Espiner did a very good one too called Proof. And he unpacked quite significantly the effect that placements of billboards and advertising the alcohol has in terms of its intensity and things and effect on drinking and accessibility to alcohol, and particularly South Auckland. Really, I recommend everybody have a look at that. It's only a 45-minute documentary, really valuable to read. So look, it seems to me that the data is pretty clear around the association between sponsorship and advertising. As Mike's pointed out, there was quite a shift obviously away from tobacco sponsorship, which hasn't been the death knell for cricket in any event. Look, so I would be inclined to want to support this proposal as put to us today.
Thanks, Susan. Is there anyone?
Yeah, I'd just like to say our lap's been really useful for Wipeout, and Hamilton don't have one, do they, Carl? And that's caused them a few headaches in putting rules around controls on the availability of alcohol. So Wipeout's been really lucky to have the local alcohol policy.
Thanks, Marcus. Okay. All right. I think anyone who's wanted to have a comment has. My view is very. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say one part of the resolution was to appoint somebody potentially from this part. So I was just going to make a suggestion around that. Yeah,
and I would imagine it's Marcus because he's been involved in the liquor licensing. So, and a very apt suggestion, I would suggest. So, Marcus, if you're comfortable with that and the councillors are comfortable with you being the nominated person from council, so we can include that in.
Sorry, can I just ask, what does that role mean, Carl? It's like currently, like what happens now?
Through the chair, I believe the District Health Board would then look at some mechanism of linking all of the council representatives together and mapping out some way of working together towards their objectives. I haven't had the opportunity to discuss it with them how they see that working, but I think it's a primary point of contact with each elected council.
Yeah, as Liz said, full time.
I apologise for not discussing it with you earlier.
Well, there wasn't a name there earlier, Carl. Look, I'm certainly erring on the side of the supporting this report. We all know that the huge harm alcohol does to the nation, I suppose. And yes, you've got to balance that with some of the benefits of supporting sport. But the family harm through excessive alcohol use is horrendous, really, for New Zealand and in our health statistics and social welfare statistics. So we've got to, as a nation, work to doing something to put that right. This won't go anywhere near resolving those issues, I would suggest, but it's, in my view, a step in the right direction. The removal of the special appeal process, really, when we go through a consultative process to get our liquor licensing policy with the community, we distill down the views of our community, and by removing the appeal process, I don't think will inhibit our community at all, and it just stops the games being played by those national supermarket chains and liquor sales businesses that use it more or less as anti-competitive issues rather than public health. And yes, the gradual winding down of alcohol advertising may well assist. So look, I'm certainly erring on that side. the argument. But look, it is a conscience vote, and I think if Marcus is comfortable with having his name there as our advocate, if you want to call it that, and sorry, Marcus, we haven't got a job description for it, but you've probably got more experience than anyone else around the table at the moment. So could we ask that possibly that you pick that role up and find out what it's all about? Come back to us if there's any problems in terms of commitment or any assistance you might need. But as an initial start point, I would be quite happy for your name to go forward, and I think probably the councillors agree with that. So we have some recommendations here, A through to F, I think it is. And I think we probably need to go through them one by one, because I think we're going to have some councillors that may want to record their vote against it, and that's fine. So if everyone's comfortable with that, I'll just move through the recommendations. So we've got recommendation A, and I think this will be okay, that we received the report from Carl Tutty, and everyone's happy with that. So can I have a mover and seconder, Phil and Andrew? All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. The second one again is just receiving that letter. Again, I don't think there's any conflict there. So it's moved Phil and seconded Claire. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Right, now we've come to the C, it's endorse or not endorse the proposed private members bill. And this is where I think we've got some differing opinions. So can I have a mover and seconder will take the positive to endorse the proposed private members bill. So can I have a mover and seconder? Mike's moved.
I'll second.
Sorry, Susan, did you second?
I said I'll second it, yeah.
Yeah, and Susan seconded. So all those in favour, can I put motion? All those in favour? Aye. Contrary?
No.
Yep. So Graham and Roger, did you want your votes recorded?
Yes, please.
Roger?
I'm not concerned about that. I just don't agree with
Yeah.
the fact that both
Sorry. Yes. So just been advised from my advisor here, we need a yes or a no. Roger, are you wanted it recorded or? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we've got Graham and Roger recorded their votes against. Sorry. Yep. D. Request the proposed private members bill, sale and supply of liquor, well, etc., be supported or not supported. Again, I'll put the positive supported, and I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Oh, sorry.
To move it.
Mike's moved and seconded Claire. So I'll put that motion now. All those in favour? Contrary? Again?
No.
No? Yeah. So record Roger and Graham.
Thank you.
Item E, a delegate, to appoint a delegate. So we've had some discussion on it, but again, the positive mover that we do support a delegate, and that it be Marcus Gower, and moved Liz and seconded Phil. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. And F, requests New Zealand Government to review the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012. And I would imagine we've got a unanimous Claire moved and Phil second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Aye. Carried. Thanks, Carl. Thank you very much for the discussion. So we now go on to item 14 and a resolution to exclude the public. Can I have a mover and seconder? Andrew and Mike,